some of them are gaining more followers from some of the stuff because they're doing a little bit better job at it than some of the others. But others just aren't getting any traction on it. And it's just kind of like, it's because of the way you're presenting yourself. You have to be so real and authentic. Your work has to be shown, and you have to be authentic and just real.
Happy New Year and welcome to the Creative Brief. Today we dive back in for part 2 of my epic interview with legendary freelancer Dan Petty. Now, if you missed part 1, you could find it on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And hey, while you're there, why not give the channel a subscribe? There's a lot more to come in the new year, and I'm excited to bring you some great episodes. In the meantime, I'm Brian Athey, and this is the Creative Brief. So you got into product after that, and that was like, I mean, that's a whole new world. You were in San Diego, moved to San Francisco for like the product stuff, the Y Combinator stuff.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? So freelanced, right, in San Diego, still in San Diego. Then I get married. My wife moves to San Diego. She's from Nashville. So
Okay.
now we move out there, and now we're in North County, not North. I guess you call it North County, San Diego. Cardiff by the Sea, Encinitas.
Oh yeah, great surfing in Encinitas.
That was a dream, man. I never thought I'd leave.
I learned to surf in Encinitas. I've only been a handful of times, but that's where I learned to surf. Yeah,
man, it's such a good time. Got stung by a stingray there. That was a fun time.
There are pushers out there. Like you could, I think like that's what we called them. I'm like a Louisiana kid talking about surfing, but like you could paddle out for like 200 yards and the lineup would be out there and it would bring you all the way in. Easy little like 2 foot, 3 foot, just easy pushes. They would like help you up the waves and they would just take you all the way in.
It was so fun. It was the greatest time. Greatest time. I hope to get back one day, and I hope my kids get to experience that whole situation. But, so I was still freelancing, and I started to freelance with a friend who wasn't a friend at the time, but became a friend. And we tried to make a startup together called Holler.
Okay.
His name is Nick O'Neill. Nick had just sold a business to somebody. He owned a Facebook blog and he sold it for millions of dollars. Again, Facebook was like the hottest topic at the time, you know. Twitter was starting to pick up steam a little bit. But we started a product called Holler together, which was basically you would tweet out. You would send a message on Holler and holler out, I guess, and say, I want to go play basketball. Anybody around to play basketball? Mm-hmm. And because, you know, we were in San Francisco, New York City, and all these big cities, and people would come join you. They're like, yeah, sure. Or you want to go to dinner, looking to meet some designers. Right. Basically, it was Foursquare was like a thing at the time. So it was kind of like riffing off Foursquare a bit, but like for activities, not just review type thing. Yeah. Gowalla was a thing at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so we came out with Holler. And we were top on the App Store. And then it came time to like actually do it. Like, oh, do we get investors? Does Nick keep spending all of his money on it? It was just us two. And I forget who, I think he made the decision because he was the brains behind everything. But he just wasn't ready for a full commitment on something like that yet. I guess I wasn't really either. Startup world's hard. Are
you like mid-20s at the time?
Yeah, dude, young. Like I'm like, and you know, he just he had his success already at the time. So we just took a break, and what happened after that? More freelance work, you know. I moved back to San Francisco.
Yeah, now I moved back for Medium, right?
Yeah, so freelancing for several years, and then Ev calls, sends me a DM. I'm hanging out with some friends. Ev sends me a DM, and on Twitter, and I see it. I'm just like, okay, what is this? Yeah, whatever.
He's impersonating.
Ignore it. And then a few minutes go by. I'm like, wait a minute, Ev. I said at Ev.
Yeah.
Okay. That's Ev Williams.
Mhm.
And there wasn't like spam bots or anything on Twitter at the time. There wasn't really a lot of fake stuff
Right.
yet. So I go to the other room, go to the bathroom, and just so I can look at my phone. I see that it's Ev, and it's really a message. Hey Dan, love your design work. Wonder if you would want to chat sometime. What? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Message back all excited. And I quit drinking coffee for like 2 years before this meeting with Ev. But this is like my first real like successful entrepreneur that I'm going to meet,
Okay.
and Ev was like on top of the world at the time. Twitter was huge. It was
Twitter
the
was
biggest
huge.
thing.
Yeah.
As for me, my heroes were Kevin Rose and Ev Williams, Bistone, like that,
Those
Jack
guys.
Dorsey, but those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
And so I go meet Ev in downtown San Francisco, and before I meet him, like, man, this is it. I gotta have some coffee. I gotta have coffee for 2 years. So I went and got some espresso and just drank
I
some
don't know
espresso
if that's a
beforehand.
smart move, man.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, because I was like, what's going on here?
Could have gone south in a lot of different
everybody was
ways.
like, what's going on with this guy?
Yeah.
He's wired. Yeah, met with him, and he was just, saying he liked my work, and wanted to, I'll never forget, he wanted me to help him re-envision the internet. I was like, what does that even mean? I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what it meant, and some of the other people there didn't know what it meant, but it was called Obvious Corp at first.
I remember
was
that.
the venture place. And so I was like, yeah, I'll help. So I was freelancing at first. He wanted me to go full time, but I didn't know what was happening yet. And I loved freelancing so much, I didn't want to go to an office yet. So
Okay.
we were freelancing, me, Lee Taylor, Dustin Sinos, and a few other folks, some developers. Were just concepting literally whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
Like our goal was reinvent the internet. Like, wow, okay. So we got the person that invented Blogger, and Twitter wants us to now concept something
What's next?
to reinvent the internet. He's already done it twice. Okay. All right. What do we do?
Yeah.
So we're just all just making just the most random things. And then we finally built a couple of them, but the one that ended up being Medium made the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just finished working on that. I actually made the very first full design that launched, and as like the beta. And then we hired Tien and Lax to come help. Like take it even further, because there's only so much I could do and we could do. But Tien and Lax could like, they were on top of the world at the time.
That used to be my favorite site on the internet. Agency site on the internet.
Everybody's, yeah. Jeff and John were like on top of the design world
visionaries
at that time.
They were amazing. Yeah.
So bringing them in was just like, oh man. And then we were there. I was there until it launched, and probably a few months after launch. And then I knew my job there was kind of done. I'm not the type of person that can sit and work on a project that's like just iterating. It's not exciting. I told you how my career started. It's just constantly going. Yeah. Sitting on one thing and iterating is not my thing. Yeah. Even though I'm doing it right now, but I'm slowing down, and I really love just doing it, what I'm working on right now. I noticed that we were using, Slack wasn't out yet, so we were using GChat, I think it was called.
Okay, sure.
AIM was AIM still a thing?
GChat was the big one.
There was GChat, and then like there was another like famous chat thing. I can't remember what it was called. And then there was another one through Basecamp. Mm-hmm. Campfire, maybe something fire.
I think so. That's what it is now. I think.
Okay. And there were like 3 or 4 of them that we were using, because like, these people were coming from Google, they were coming from Yahoo, they were coming from everywhere, Twitter. This is a mix of developers and smart people. And they wanted to use their own thing that they were used to. So this is like, what's going on here? People were always missing messages. And then we tried to like just go back to email. Like that definitely wasn't working. So I messaged a friend one evening. I was like, dude, what if we did something like this? He was an engineer at Twitter, and he's like, yeah, dude, totally, that could be really cool. And we riffed on it for a while, and then we just became really passionate about what we're doing. We're basically building Slack, but it wasn't called Slack, but it literally was Slack. It was
Really?
called Hum.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and then
That's
we sent an interview to Y Combinator, and we got approved. They thought we were working on a cool project, and
what was that
yeah, so we went through the
experience like?
whole.
I mean, you've been doing
Dude,
all the
that was
jam sessions, but Y Combinator is like another level, right?
yeah, it was. I think it was. I don't think I was fully prepared for it, to be honest, because I mean I'm still freelancing, and my co-founder was still freelancing. We all needed money. Like we were living in San Francisco. Like
Right.
I think at the time my rent was like $4,000 a month. It's
Unbelievable.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean bills to pay, and
Not cheap bills. Coffee's like
no, and
$8 a
still
cup.
paying student loans and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I couldn't stop working, making money, and you get a little bit when you join Y Combinator, you did, but it wasn't. You don't want to spend it on yourself. Like that's not what you do. You gotta like put it to get good use. We actually hired Dan and Lax with it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There's that creative
and,
director gene kicking in again. You got the person for it.
Exactly. And so yeah, it was a really interesting experience, man. It was I wasn't fully prepared for it. I think my co-founder wasn't either. I remember we got the day before demo day, we had to practice our rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm not good in front of stages and people. I'm an introverted person. So, and my co-founder was extroverted. He's very good at this stuff. He sings and does all this stuff. So he was the one that was going to get on stage to do the presentation. I would have froze 100%.
Oh wow!
But he actually did freeze on rehearsal day. Thank goodness. But like, it just
like
no
with a
words
hard
came out of his
question, or
mouth.
just forgot his pitch.
Yeah. So my co-founder was going to do the pitch, and it's rehearsal day, and he there's no questions or anything. It's just you're giving your pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets up there and gets the mic, and I'm working the keynote,
Right.
over on the side, and he's just sitting there like. He's like, okay, deep breath.
Oh no, the lights hit him.
And just nothing happened. You have all these people staring at you, and I'm just like,
no.
Oh man, Michael, here we go. His name was Michael Jackson, by the way. He's an incredible, awesome human. For the record, I would have done the same thing, if not worse.
Right. This is like all the pressure of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and keep in mind, a little bit before this, we get rumor of Slack.
Okay.
And they already have $100 million in funding or whatever ridiculous it was. Right. Everyone we've already been talking to, showing our product to, was already using it.
They're like,
and
oh,
they were
this is just like Slack. Us. Cool.
Yeah. We're like, but they couldn't tell us that. They wouldn't, they were like, oh, this is so cool. This is going to be so great. Yeah, you got to keep going. We're not going to invest right now because just because maybe there's some forget the conflict of interest. They wouldn't tell us why, or if it's the same kind of project, but it was Slack. It was the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, and he gets another go. We kind of like somebody else goes, and then we come back, and he does it, and it's really great. Everybody claps really good for him. It made him feel good. But then the next day is demo day. And now Slack is already out. Like people are not out, but like it's announced, like it's official.
Between the practice pitch and the actual demo.
It's like it's there, it's out there. So we're now have to pitch in front of Ashton Kutcher, all these famous VCs, Andreessen, like everybody's there.
Yeah,
everybody. In Silicon Valley is right there in the front row.
You got to remember, like San Francisco is like it's a small town, and like. It's got so many eyes and so much interest and so much money that like everybody shows up, and you kind of know everybody, right? I mean, like these are not a bunch of strangers in the audience. Like these are people that you don't want to flop in front of, right?
No, you don't. Yeah, exactly. And this is your shot.
Yeah.
This is your shot. A lot of people, this is their one chance to raise some money, and it's like a big deal. You get featured on TechCrunch. Who raised money on demo day?
Yeah.
And when TechCrunch was a big thing. Um, and so we get up there, the pitch is great. You know, he does awesome. I worked the keynote really well. We're
Yeah,
a great
man. The
team.
front and back arrows, you dominated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Crushed
But
it.
I'll never forget this part. Like afterwards, then you do, like you get to go talk to all the VCs, right?
Mhm.
And there's this huge line with Ashton Kutcher, and I really wanted to see what Ashton thought. You know, I was an Ashton fan, pumped
Sure.
and all this
Sure.
stuff. Of course, I want to go say hi. Um,
Get an
so
autograph on the trucker hat.
yeah, sign the trucker. It's my turn to talk to him. I'm like, hey, hey man, this is who I am. What'd you think about Hum? And he remembered the presentation. He's like, oh yeah, that's actually really cool. It's um, um, uh, this, you know, I like this feature, I like that feature. It's like, but what do you think about Slack? How does it compare to Slack? And I was like, thanks for the time, man. Really great to
Oh
meet you.
no.
I peaced out, dude. I was out of there.
Oh no.
I had nothing to say.
Oh
Nothing.
no. Love
I
John
mean,
Pope, man. Take it easy.
yeah, dude. Like here two, you know, young guys that we can't compete with that with Slack. You know, the co-founder, the founder of Slack already sold Flickr. Remember Flickr?
Of course, yeah.
He knew everybody. Everybody was going to use Slack. Of course, everybody did end up using Slack.
Still
I
does.
still regret it to this day. We quit. We just went separate ways after that. It was too just humiliating experience, and with Slack and everything. I wish we would have continued, because I think we could have still got acquired or done
Pivoted
something
or
really
something, sure.
special. It was a mistake to quit, but it just was the wrong time, and we needed money. And it is hard to raise money and do the whole VC thing and do all the startup thing. We just didn't want to do that right away, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
So
so you've sort of like, I feel like this competitive streak has kept you moving and has allowed you to pivot off of these things. And it's also like, I mean, bro, you've gone from, you know, you were in San Francisco. I can't remember when you made the move from San Francisco to Nashville. It was around pandemic time, right?
the year before,
As you were doing that, you also like put down, well, it's not Figma then, it was probably something else. Were you a Photoshop guy? Did you
I
say?
was a Photoshop guy. Yeah. Now I'm Figma, but I was Photoshop, heavily Photoshop.
Put down the tools and you picked up a camera and you started traveling around the
Oh, yeah.
country, like filming. It was like a documentary and then like the freelance TV series. Like you just decided like, I'll just pivot. I'm like really good at this. And you know, I've established myself here, but like, what if I just totally did something else? What if I just got into filmmaking?
Yeah, that was an interesting time, man. It's still a little confusing how I got here, to be honest. Or made that decision. Um, I lost a big client because I was doing video work, and I do regret that. Because that client ended up selling the business for like millions and millions and millions of dollars, and I should have been a part of that. But
Oof.
I wouldn't be where I am today, so I am thankful for that. But uh, I was a creative director at a pretty well known agency. I I started to, and this is a little bit later in my career, but I started to just see how stressful the agency life became for people around me,
Yep.
not in my personal life, but other people working
Mhm.
around me, and how they were handling themselves, and like how the business was operating, and people were priced differently, and like I was being priced a certain thing compared to other people, and like why people were only coming to this company because I was there type
Makes sense. Yeah.
situations, and it didn't feel right. Um, I just didn't have a good feeling about it. So I started to fall out of love of design during that time.
Okay.
And I was only at this place for a very short period of time. The company made me a great deal, and they actually helped me out of a good a bad situation. Um, but so forever thankful for that. But we went our separate ways, And I think just to regain that interest in creativity, and just pushing my limits, I wanted to do some video work. Like,
Right.
hey, what if I tell stories of designers? No one's really telling stories of designers, and especially freelancers. Um, Maybe I could do it.
Mhm.
Never. I did some photography work, but never like video work. Nothing, zero.
Is this around like
And yeah,
2015, 2016? Is that right? Can you remember? I asked
I'm
because
terrible with dates. I'm not sure.
I remember like Casey Neistat is like, you know, a hero of mine. And I remember
Yeah, me
like
too.
as he got into daily vlogging, like I started like it had tremendous influence on my
Yeah.
creativity as well, but it was also like, oh, I want to be a runner, or I want to pick up a
Oh
camera,
yeah.
like it was that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So like I wonder if there was like if you were seeing sort of the rise of this. YouTube was
Uh,
like it was a thing and
yeah.
there were some daily vlogs, but like Casey took it to a new level right around that
Yeah.
time. Um
Totally. You're
and
right.
I wonder if any
It
of
was
that
Casey.
was it.
It was that time. It was that time period because I was redesigning I did a couple sites for boosted boards.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
One at this age, yeah, one at this agency
Okay.
and one on my own right afterwards, which is funny. But
Boosted boards.
um, and I remember the client came in there and they're the ones that brought my attention to Casey and the vlogging.
Mhm.
I wasn't aware of it, and I was already boosting around San Francisco. But then I saw Casey, and that's helped inspire getting a camera too. And I
Right.
actually started a vlog too, but it was really kind of for boosted board in a way.
Sure.
But I ended up enjoying it, and then um, um, but before that, actually, I'm now confusing my timelines. That's when I started vlogging side. When did I do the freelance video? I guess it's right around that time too.
I think it was following that.
Yeah, maybe it was following
It's
that.
sort of
Okay, yeah.
in that period between I feel like it is. I mean, like I'm outside observer, but I feel like it was in that time between San Francisco and Nashville. There
Yeah,
was
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
this like video period.
Yeah, it's so confusing, trying to keep track of everything. But yeah, and and I remember so either the vlog camera was my first camera. I think maybe that's what it was. The vlog camera was my first camera, which is like a little Canon something. But I wanted to maybe take it a step further again, just to
See how far
get
you
my
could take it.
creativity back
Mhm.
and just see what I could do. And I remember reaching out to Sony, so a random email, hey, I'm thinking about traveling the country, filming some freelancers and trying to put it on YouTube or something. I had nobody, I still don't have any really subscribers on YouTube. Um, I don't know why they would have helped me or anything, but they actually ended up letting me borrow camera gear. Like all this camera gear. I'm talking like
What? Shoot your
probably like
shot.
50,
Shoot your
50
shot,
grand of
everybody.
camera gear.
Slide
Yeah.
into those DMs.
And I was like, are you serious? And so they literally sent me like these two luggages of camera, all these lenses and like the Sony A7 whatever, the first one that came out.
Yeah, yeah.
Two of them. I had two of them.
Yeah.
I ended up buying a camera and a lens from them, because of how awesome that was of them. But yeah, and then just
But no, that's not the end of the story. I mean, you were working on Reg for a little while. You went
yeah,
all
so
in.
I went on. Yeah, so I did this project to learn so much, man. It
Yeah,
was
Premiere's
like,
not easy, come to find out.
oh my goodness, no, it's not. It's not. And audio is the most important thing when it comes to video. And then you have to set up everything. You got to set up the audio. You got to do the lighting. You got to make
Yep.
sure you hit record. You got to make sure you have your notes. You got to make sure all this stuff. And I was the only one doing it. I was
Extra
traveling
batteries,
these
extra
people's
film
places
cards,
and
extra everything. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, can you give me an hour of your time or 2 hours of your time? Like I felt so bad for these people. And then here I am like sweating, getting all this stuff set up. And I had no idea what I was doing. No clue. But it turned out pretty decent. I'm proud. I'm very proud of it. I'm not proud of what happened after it launched. I launched it and then had some people, this was my first time really experiencing hate on Twitter, I think.
Well,
I've experienced some,
the
but
platform
you just
like
kind of,
sort of evolved into a new. It wasn't just like a put your thoughts out there and get responses. There
yeah,
was suddenly
it,
like there was a lot of traction on provocation is the right word. Yeah, when like people
yeah,
mess with you a little bit, or that hate gets rewarded, which is
yeah, it
super
does. And
sad.
it was such a, it really had a huge effect on me. I really regret that it did, to be honest. It shouldn't. We should not let these people bother. I don't care who they are.
Mhm.
We should not let them bother us, talking down to us. But this project, I put so much into this project. I think that's why it bothered me the most. And these people were I thought friends. I
Oh
think I'm
man.
cool with everybody until suddenly I find out I'm not.
Oh
you know,
no.
because a lot of people don't like me on. A lot of people like me on Twitter, but there are a few people, other like well-known designers, that just for some reason just resent me, and I will never know why.
Well, you
I
know
don't
that
know.
it's that thing where you can get 100 positive comments and you remember the one negative one.
It's just the
And I
one.
imagine
Yeah,
it.
it's the one.
I mean, we're talking about volume for you. You're up there on your follower count. So, I mean, even if you're just looking at a 1 or 2 or 3%, that's a lot of people talking shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. And all the hate. The hate was like, just the like not professional, high quality enough for. I'm like, dude, I didn't even know what I was doing. But this the main and that was a very small percentage. Most people were like just so encouraged by it, and it really had an effect on people. But the other part, the main part that bothered me was when people were saying there wasn't like a lot of self promotion or video work on design stuff at the time.
Mhm.
And they were like, who do you think you are being able to um, talk about, you're not the king of freelancing, like why do you feel so special, like you put your, because I said some about film by Dan Petty, filmed and edited by Dan Petty or something like that,
Right.
and people, a couple of people like made such a big deal about it, some really well-known designers, and I reached out to them. I was like, and then they a lot of some of them were liking the tweet, and I reached out to a person I thought I was friends with. I was like, hey, why did you like that tweet? I just saw you like that. Did I do something wrong? And you're like, and their own response was, do you just reach out to, do you just send DMs to people that like tweets against you? That was their response. They didn't answer my question or say what I did wrong. It was just like rude and hateful
Why are you
thing. And I'm
taking
like,
this seriously? I was just being a jerk. Like, why would you even care? Yeah.
yeah. And like, I'm sorry for caring and wanting to be your friend. I
Oh man.
respect you, but why is there no, I didn't understand it. It literally made no, and I even like had message conversations with people like, did I do something wrong here? And they were like, no. What are you talking about? No, you did something great.
Oh man.
Um, but
How did
just
that
because of who it was, it just like, and so I just stopped working on the project because it got me down.
really
I was
like
like,
you? It
man,
affected you that much?
yeah, yep. I just stopped working on it.
Oh man. So I mean,
Because of the
does the footage
go ahead.
still exist? Like, do you? I mean,
Yeah, oh, it's up there. Yeah, some of them's got 100,000 views on
oh, I
YouTube.
mean, I know, but I don't know. Did the full length? You were doing something
Nope.
full length at one point, right?
Yep. The full length did not fully come to get made. There was a lot more interviews that didn't get edited. It just stopped me in my tracks. Literally the day it launched. Also, another thing, the day it launched, so it was like number one on Product Hunt and like featured everywhere. I was super proud of that. Super proud of the site we made.
The freelance
But
TV site.
yeah,
Oh, it was great. You had the little,
but
you had the video player that dropped into the bottom right
yeah.
corner by before anybody was doing that.
It was made by the legendary developer Nick Jones,
Okay.
who's at
What's up,
Stripe
Nick?
now, and so, I mean, the best, probably still one of the best developers I've ever worked with.
Mhm.
Now I remember like either he did something or I did something wrong. Not wrong, but like when we put the site up, it was kind of just, we didn't know what we were doing. YouTube wasn't tracking the views, so we had it up for a whole day, and YouTube wasn't tracking views because of the way it was played. something like that. So then I was like, how do I have all these visitors, but yet the videos only have like 50 views? Like, it didn't make any sense. And then he was like, oh man, I forgot to do this or
Oh,
that
from
or
the way that
whatever. I
it
was
was
like,
oh,
no.
the way the site was
uh,
built.
yeah.
Oh my
So the whole
gosh.
time it was featured, and you get shared everywhere, like people, they weren't able to fully
As long as
watch
they
the
were watching it on the
videos.
site, it wasn't tracking the view.
Man,
Oh
yes. And I
no.
was just like, dude, um,
Oh no, because the site experience was better than watching it on YouTube, if I remember. Like you
I
guys
thought
had
so.
taken so
Yeah.
much care to like curate this experience on the actual site, and it was sticky. Like you wanted to just keep going to each additional video.
Mhm.
Bro,
Yeah.
they didn't track any of that.
No, it was
Oh
like,
no.
that was a big bummer too, man. That really hit my ego there.
Well, I think, you know, one of the things is it's super interesting to hear you talk about that because, we will put folks up on a pedestal. I'm sure you have folks that you admire and look up to and um, who you follow, and you forget that, they're struggling with the same things. They're people too, and they're affected by the same, not just like creative burnouts, but like all these other factors that, anybody would be affected with just as a human. To hear that, like, I mean, you've had stuff like we listed out at the beginning. You've had work featured with all the best clients, and you've got the follower count, and you've got the projects, and you've got the access, and you've got the. But to hear that you're still taking it on the chin sometimes, and it messes with you, like it's just kind of interesting to hear. You kind of forget about that when there's a Dan Petty out there tweeting every day with an audience that you just feel like is there for the good vibes.
Yeah, it's the most frustrating part. It really is.
How did you?
And I'm used to people not liking my work. Like, with clients, you're going to get no's from clients, and you got to go back and redesign. That's a whole nother story. Like,
Mhm.
feedback is great. That's how you grow. But it's just when people are just straight up rude, and like for no reason, and like they just jump into your world to be rude real quick and then jump back out of your world.
Well,
I just wish. I wish we didn't have to deal with that. I wish other people didn't have to deal with it. I've grown to just kind of brush it off a little, as much as I can. It still bothers me, and sometimes.
have you seen
Um,
have you seen the stuff that goes on with Brett at Design Joy? Have you seen like are you familiar
mhm.
with him at all?
Yep,
So
yep.
I think he's under a tremendous amount of scrutiny and a tremendous amount of fire online, and he doesn't pull back the curtain much. But I watch him, who has done something pretty different. I think he was one of the originators of this like design as a subscription idea, um, and you've seen dozens and dozens of copycats, hundreds of copycats over the last year, but it's still like this. There's sort of this race to the bottom mentality that he gets attacked with a lot. Um,
Yeah.
have you paid attention a lot over the last year? Sort of this transition from, I mean, as a freelancer, obviously, I'm super curious about how you manage your workload and interact with your clients. But like, have you noticed this transition from kind of this high design thinking, high dollar packages, big massive projects, sort of turning into or converting into something that is more um like these subscription services, just quick and fast, and I really just want the service of design. I don't want the strategy and the build out and I just need the service. Like, have you what is your
Yeah.
take on this so far?
Yeah, it's a good question. I honestly haven't put too much thought into it. I'm just happy people are making money at the end
Mhm.
of the day. I use Fiverr if you want to. Like, I'm the type of person that's like, it's valuable. It's valuable to somebody. So use it,
Mhm.
and people hate on this. Same people that hate on subscriptions hate on Fiverr and all the stuff out there, that makes people money. If people are making money, all for it. I I mean, the subscription save stuff has been around for a long time. Um, I think Brett probably made it the most famous, just
Right.
talking about it.
Sure.
Because a lot of us don't talk about pricing or anything like that at
Right.
all,
Right.
So Brett
He
came
was
out and
bold. Yeah.
talked about it. And when you mention you're making $1 million in a year or whatever, obviously everyone wants to copy that and do the same
Mhm.
thing. Rightfully so. I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah.
And criticize it
Obviously.
if they can't, right?
Yeah, and criticize if you can't, for sure. Same goes with everything.
Yeah.
I remember I had to tweet out looking for a client that will pay me $20,000 to do a landing page for them, and I'll feature it in my course or video, a video or course. I had to do it with a video,
Sure.
and the hate that I got. I'm like, what? Do you know how much I actually make usually on landing pages? Often more than $20,000 for one page.
So where does this come from? Where, like, okay, so you're in this career. Like, think about like an engineer or a lawyer or think about any other profession. There's not a whole lot of like accountants getting online and being like, 20% commissions on that tax return? Are you nuts? Like, I only charge 15 and like, I don't understand this. Like, when there are people who are successful, the instinct of, quote unquote, design Twitter is to just eviscerate that person, like to just talk so much crap about them. And I don't understand why the mentality is not like, hey, how did you do that? Or what is your process like? Or what are you delivering that's so much different from me? Or am I just underselling myself? Like, that's the big realization. Like, when you realize that there's somebody out there who has figured out a system to, stay balanced. I mean, again, I know him through Twitter, but to see, he says he has a balanced life and he's pulling in $1 million a year. Like, why is everybody not like, oh man, let's figure out a different or a better or a cool way to do that? Like, why is the instinct of design Twitter, do you think, to like snipe so much?
It's easy. Just because it's easy. It's easier to do that than it is to go make $1 million.
Well,
And
sure.
time and time again, people will take the easy route. And what will get you a quick attention, a quick few likes,
But
is hating on somebody.
When we hire people, I say this all the time, and anytime I talk to like graduating classes or young designers, I always say, like, you might send in your application and your resume. The first thing I look at is your socials. Like, the first thing that I check out is, where's your work? What does that site look like? What do you look like on Instagram? What do you look like on Twitter? And if all of your posts are just negative and critical and snarky and mean, I don't feel like you're going to come in as a good hire. I don't feel like you're going to be a good teammate. I certainly don't think I want to hire you to work with. Like, what? Easy, yeah, but like, sometimes you want to do like the hard right instead of the easy wrong, right? Like, sometimes you want to find a higher ground than just talking shit to people.
Yeah, I can't fully wrap my head around why people do this. Like, I mean, my only thing I can think of is like when I see somebody like Brett that makes $1 million a year, or Matt D. Smith that makes a course that he works on forever and makes maybe a few million. I'm not really sure. I'm assuming.
I love Matt.
Some other people that just make a lot of money. My gut reaction is, why did you do that? How did you get that money? That should have been me, or something like that. But then quickly I'm like, oh, Matt, good job.
Yeah. In real life, you would give that person a high five and a hug. You wouldn't just like
huge
glare
hug.
them
Like,
down.
Let's go.
Right? Yeah.
Dinner on you tonight.
That's exactly right. Like, that's
but on Twitter, it's like you just, I don't know. People they let out that first little instinct like of jealousy out. They just splurt it out.
Well, that's the kind of community that we could have. And I miss Dribble a lot. Like, I miss the old days of like grunge textures and noise in Dribble. Put a little noise on everything and make it look great. I miss that. And there is sort of the counter. There was always this argument on Dribble that like there's never any real feedback. It's just people like giving thumbs up and high fives and hey, I love your work and that's great. Um, but I wonder if there's some kind of new platform or happy medium. Did you were you serious at all about
No, no,
going after Dribble?
no. Oh, if they sold it to me, yeah, I'd 100% buy it. I mean, if I had money, I'd have to like, get some help there, but I'd take it over. I think I'd be great at it. I honestly think I would be really good at it. I think I would need a couple friends help. But there are a lot of ways, like on the business side, I would need help.
Sure.
But showing work, getting clients, and all that stuff, that's my thing, man. Like I'd be great at it. Making connections with people, connecting the dots. I would be thrilled to do something like that. My dream is still to make the first first. There probably is one already, but just my style of a just free online school that like teaches everybody everything, and it has all your portfolio stuff, has all the clients coming there, and like Google comes to me and Google's like, Dan, I'm going to give you $1 million a year, and you need to give me, what would that be, like eight designers every year.
Mhm.
Done. Easy, Google.
Like an
And at the
incubator.
same time, uh Microsoft's doing the same thing, or I'm just naming random companies now. They're doing the same thing, and the company's making $50 million a year, and we're having to spit out 50 designers, 100 designers a year to these companies. Easy,
That's smart.
easy.
Yeah.
Why is no one doing that? Like, I want to do that so bad. So I would take over Dribble in a heartbeat. But they're switching it up just because of financials, because of money. So you
Right.
can't hate on that. You got to do what you got to do for business stuff. It's unfortunate the customer has to. We're not the customer. The customer is the people paying for the ads and the job posts. That's the cost. That's the real customer.
Well, I mean,
We're just
finding
the
ways to
land
finding ways to
wanderers.
lift up talent, finding ways to like, nurture folks to share all the stuff that you've learned over time. I think that that's a super admirable thing that you do on a regular basis. And I challenge people to think about it um, in the way that I've observed you do it. It's like, you know, there are ways to find opportunities and partnerships, and there are ways to give back that uh, are sustainable. Like I'm always interested when like I think this just happened to you the other day. You were like putting out all these free courses and all these free reviews, which like, when you'll review somebody's portfolio, like I even called some of those folks, like I was looking for a Webflow developer at
Nice,
that time.
dude.
And
Yes.
like the amount of DMs and messages that those people must have gotten just off that exposure is so super valuable. But like, you didn't ask for anything, but just in a mention, you were like, but this took me 6 hours. My computer's so slow. And Webflow was like, hey, Dan,
Ah,
hey,
dude.
Dan, what's up? I love
Yeah,
that. Like that pays off. It really does.
it does pay off because I may or may not have a brand new computer
Hey, let's go, man.
because of it. So I haven't fully made it a announcement yet, but yeah, Webflow purchased a computer for me. So I don't have it here yet. It's gonna December. It'll arrive.
Yeah.
But they're like, yeah, we in DMs, hey, we love what you're doing. If you can keep going these reviews going, we'd love to help you, with a computer, and just, shout out Webflow from time to time. And I'm like, dude, oh, of course.
Well, it's
Are you kidding me?
it's so valuable. And like, it's such a weird time because there's like, the economy is weird right now. And AI is such a like, it's like this presence. I don't know if it's an ominous one or if it's like a brave new world one. I mean, it's super exciting. And I think that there will be tons of people that figure out ways to capitalize with it.
Uh-huh.
But just reminding people to get their work out there and play the game a little bit, I think is so encouraging for so many folks.
It's the most important part, man. Like, I don't understand it. Like, people follow what other people do, right? And right now you're not getting the best guidance out there because everyone's just tweeting. For one, Twitter is the place to be right now. Let's be real. There's we don't have a Dribble or Behance or things like I mean they exist, but Twitter's where the clients are right now. And people are just tweeting out like random design advice and the most trying to be like influencers, really, which is fine.
Chat
That's great.
GPT, I need 10 tweets on
Yeah,
design advice.
that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if these people realize that. Like some of them, a lot of them are my friends, and I just see this stuff and like, oh my goodness, you think you're advancing and you're making these steps, which some of them are gaining more followers from some of the stuff because they're doing a little bit better job at it than some of the others. But others just aren't getting any traction on it. And it's just kind of like it's because of the way you're presenting yourself. You have to be so real and authentic, along with showing your work. Your work has to be shown, and you have to be authentic and just real. Like that's why you'll see me. I don't just tweet about design stuff or whatever. I'll tweet something about my kids or my chickens or whatever, coffee stuff. And I ask questions on Twitter. Sometimes I'll delete them if I get my answers, which unfortunately now destroys your engagement. It's so frustrating. I've done that forever. I'll tweet a question because I need it for work, and I delete it because I don't want everyone seeing everything. But now that affects your how much reach you get. It's like, oh, God. Okay. Yeah, you got to show your work, and you got to constantly show it. That's how I got all my work early on. But Dan, you're not showing your work right now. I'm not looking for work. I don't need work. I have work. I'm not looking for work.
And here's the cheat code I've always found is that, like, especially as you're climbing, those early years when you're just, you're the shark and you can't stop moving. You want to appear to be an expert, and you want to have all this process, and you want to I want to onboard, and I want to talk strategy, and I want all these deliverables and memos, and I need a contract, a big, beefy contract that makes me look like I'm super professional. And like the clients that are always the happiest to work with me, at least, are the ones that have fun, totally. They need something done. They might not know exactly what it is. And you have the power to unlock their imagination, to put it all into an app or in a website or in a brand that becomes tactile and they can experience. And it's so much fun. There's so much fun there. And people, I think, because they get so worried about being the expert and having the process and doing it like all the big agencies, they forget that this could actually be a really enjoyable experience, not just for the service provider, but the actual client. They can have a blast. And I mentioned something the other day. I saw this great tweet. It was designers or clients, don't forget that when you're nice, I want to give you so much more stuff than you paid for. When that experience is fun, how many times do you unlock that OG Dan Petty that just wants to keep doing iteration after iteration, keep showing option after option, because you're loving it and they're loving it, and the momentum is there. You're vibing off of each other.
Exactly.
Right?
It's all, it's all about momentum when you're going. Go to a car dealership and talk to a car salesman. It's the worst experience you'll ever get, in communicating one-on-one with somebody, right?
Yeah. That's
how a lot of these designers act. And that's how they're treating their clients. And it's so sad, your client, your goal should be you should want to make their life easier. You want to become friends with them, right? You're trying to get a relationship with them. You're not constantly trying to sell them the stuff and trying to prove yourself and all this stuff. You're working together. That's what I always text my clients when we're working. I make sure that I work how do they want to communicate? That's how we'll communicate. I send them stuff as I go. Just, hey, what do you think about this? Yeah. Not hey, I designed this thing because of this and because of this and because of this theory and this theory and because of this. No, just hey, this looks pretty cool right here. This might work like this. What do you think? It's always, what do you think, client? What do you think, client?
Mhm.
And when they want my expert explanation, I'll give it to them,
Sure.
a reason why. But you got to make them happy too. You need to make what they want. Um, we're
Y-
not always the smartest person in the room, you know.
You know who's the best at this is I'm working on a project right now with Timmy Ham,
Timmy's
and
great.
Timmy he sends all voice memos, like not a lot of text. It's all voice
Yes.
memos. And so, you'll check your phone and you've got these 2 or 3 messages,
Mhm.
and like, sure, they're project check-ins, or he might, be prefacing like, I'm about to send you like the latest or whatever. But usually it's just like, yo, how's your day, man? I hope you're doing good.
Exactly.
Keep crushing it. Like, he sent me a message on Thanksgiving. He was just like, my best to your family, man. Like, I hope you're doing great. Love working with you. And I thought, like, man, I'm probably, I follow him. He's all over the
Yeah.
world right now. He's all over the country. He's doing like these huge epic projects, and
Mhm.
like, he treats me like I'm a buddy, because like that's just his style. And I can't impart that enough on anybody that's trying to get a career going. Like, you are not trying to provide a algorithmic machine learned experience. You're not trying to spit out something that is all about process to a T and all about that contract and exactly the deliverables. It's an experience. It is a joyful, fun experience that can be that way if you don't spend all your time just being snarky on Twitter.
Exactly. Yeah, Timmy's great at it. I get those voice memos often, and they're great. That's what it takes. Being real, not so formal all the time. That's what people want. But I don't know. Um,
Well, Dan, for a 30-minute podcast, you have exceeded expectations. Thank you so much for your time. I could talk to you all day. I hope we can do this again.
yeah, it'd be
But
fun.
I'm super grateful that you've shared so much today, and gone over uh, and just kind of let us in behind the curtain on what it's like to be Dan Petty. It's been a great
Yeah.
conversation.
Man, thanks for having me. This always fun. Always down to chat anytime if you want to keep it going later. And yeah, good luck with the podcast and everything, man. So super exciting. I'm glad you're doing it. It's gonna be really, really valuable to people.
Thank you so much. Tell everybody, if they don't know you or follow you already, where can they find you?
On Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, Twitter or X, at Dan Petty, Dan with 2 N's. That's the only place you'll find me. And you'll see everything there. So hopefully, I'll see you out there.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you again soon. Best of luck, Dan.
Likewise. See you, man.
Thanks for tuning in to part 2 of my interview with Dan Petty. I hope you liked this episode, and if you did, be sure to leave a like or a comment wherever you get your podcasts. And by all means, share this episode with your friends. It helps me spread the reach of this podcast and produce more episodes. As always, thanks for listening. I'm Brian Athey. See you next time.